we're gonna continue on the same topic as what our colleagues has presented for you. It's we call it the way towards success, and what we mean by that is how to be a successful student, especially for a university, as a university student, because as what some people think, they think it's just so easy. You go and you attend some lectures, you do some exams, and you will be succeed. But I don't think so. You have to, if I may, work harder than you used to, because in universities it's just maybe a completely different way to study. So we're gonna start with five most important point in our view. We think so.
Yeah. So
So
our first point is curiosity. What I mean by curiosity is being really interested in your topic, because you're, it's the topic you're going to choose for most of your life, and you're going to study it intensively for at least 4 or 5 years. So you really need to be interested in it and be sure you're not going to get sick of it in like 2 or 3 months, because if you do, you don't have a choice. You're just going to start everything all over again, and it's not. It's really demotivating, I guess, when you want to start something and you just can't because it's too boring for you. And another topic of curiosity is not being afraid of asking questions when you have to. Sometimes you might not understand a part of a lecture, and you have to ask someone you know can help you with it, other than just not dealing with it and thinking that everything will be fine. You have to make something when you feel like you're not following anymore. Otherwise, you will be you have a delay, and it can be painful for grades, and when you have to write papers. And something you also should do is go always a step beyond what's asked. By that, I mean, when you're doing a research or you're trying to understand a subject, your goal is not of understanding it, but to go a step further, so you're sure that the main topic is acquired and you can speak about it with no difficulties at all, and that you can even go a little further if asked in your papers, which is really nice when you're writing a conclusion, to go always a little bit further than asked, so you can show that everything is understood.
moving to our next point, motivation, which is I think one of the main factors which can affect your study in the university, because from a personal experience, actually motivation approved that I can make friends for life. I can make reliable friends. I can like socialize, explore some other cultures, some other behaviors, idea. I learned how to be a successful team member, team leader, and all of that thing is like major aspects of being a university student. So one other thing also of motivation, when you always attend your lectures, which is a really huge argument now, because some students says I will study better with myself, or self-study thing, but I think attending lecture is just so important, because sometimes you will find some information it's only been said in the lecture by the professor. Sometimes even if you read like that amount of paper or research, you cannot find the actual exact information that were given in the lecture. It's despite that it's so important for you marks, and for you keeping up on the subject, and like asking question. It's not all of it related to that only, but also furthermore in this presentation we're gonna present how it's important to understand more than just to memorize. Yeah.
Okay. Also, attendance is quite an important point, because you need to be at school when you're asked to, and also because not going to school, uh, by not going to school, you might lose some useful information you don't usually get in books. You have to know that lectures are really summarized uh, theories that they try to make you understand in a short amount of time. So for that reason, if you miss courses or lectures or something, you might have a disadvantage compared to the other students, and this can cause you to start feeling less confident about yourself and what you're talking about. And by missing one, you might missing out more and more because you don't feel like you can keep up with everything. So now we're moving on to planning. So planning is a huge part of your university work because it can help you handling multiple subjects in an amount of time. For example, some of the biggest plans we do in university is like 2 weeks ahead. You can't plan any more than that, unless you have a huge paper, because you need to be sure that your plan is accurate. And it can be very useful, so you can divide your time and not be stressed out when exams start to come. And it's also very efficient to do a plan because you can put your subjects and because you know yourself, and at university you have studied for all your life, let's say, and you know what subjects you're better and the subjects you really can't work or you need a lot of practice. And so when you're planning ahead, you know which subjects will take more time or less, and so you can divide your time according to your intelligence or the work you need or not.
Moving on our fourth point, sociability. Sociability is such a huge concept, but what we mean by that, you have to make some things, some colleagues, a new field of study. You have to integrate with people. You have to understand what others thinking. You have to generate a new idea. And sometimes you have to study together. You have to make your own group. Because in university studies, not all the subjects just relied on one individual effort. You need to do a group effort sometimes. So colleagues can like always help you with studying, with checking your work after you finish. If you finish your essay, you can give it to them. You can use a new pair of eyes on that essay, so you can find new idea, or they can criticize your essay, which is always gonna benefit you in a way. And possible friends for life. It's really, really amazing when you have friends with you studying, like for example, for 5 years, and after that you may work together or still friends, meet up every week or sometimes. It's such a huge concept for this.
So our last point, but one of the most controversial, is understanding versus memorizing. In fact, it is a huge problem in our schools because some of the fields we study at school ask us to understand, like physics or math. And if you understand physics and math, it's done. You don't have to work anymore because it's concepts linked to formulas that combined together, they just work themselves. You just need to read what you're asked to do, and you do it without even thinking. But memorizing is also really useful for languages when you need a new vocab and grammar stuff. So it's also important. But the problem is when you're not capable of understanding something, which can happen, or sometimes the subject doesn't matter to you, so you don't even pay attention, and you don't want to understand it because it requires too much work. And for this reason, you may have to learn something by heart. But we found a very, let's say, yeah, a very illustrating graph or representation about how the need to memorize is connected to understanding, which is quite easy to understand. If you don't understand anything, you have to memorize more and more stuff. But if you understand everything, you only need to memorize formulas for physics, for example. And this graph applies really well for scientific matters because there's a real need to either learn everything by heart or understanding everything. And as you may see, success is not a path, a linear path, is something really messy, and you need to combine all things we talked about to be able to succeed in school, and particularly at university level. I hope everything was.
If I may say.
Yeah.
Someone has told me before, if you never failed, you will never be succeed. So I don't think there's an actual line like that. You go through it, or an actual steps, then you will be like you achieve your goal or something. I think you have to go, not exactly like that, but sometimes you have to fail and try again and again. And as much as you fail, you will learn from that, and at some point you will reach there and fulfill your dreams. So thank you guys for listening, and if you have any questions, we will be more than happy to answer.